Blue's Life Series, Episode 10, Alien Investigation. Last time on Blue's Life Series, Geppetto struggled with depression and fear. She hoped that Blue would return safely. Her mind would not stop thinking about his abduction, his smell, his touch, the stories of the other abductees, and it filled her with overwhelming dread. Henru and Thunder Bloodsplitter sat down to discuss their findings. They were excited. Their species had been plagued with relying on other species that were compatible to procreate. Thunder himself was a half-breed because no pure-blood aliens were male anymore. They had taken it upon themselves to delve deeply into the Sim's anatomy to find out why they were compatible and if it could be duplicated in their own species. "This new specimen has shown some interesting characteristics," Henry said. "Yes, I've noticed the findings and read the analysis. He may very well be what we are looking for. Are you going to perform testing today?" "That is my plan. I have ensured that I can keep him alive indefinitely through suspended animation until we have completed all our analysis." "Good. What do you think of those SAAA agents poking around? Do you think they might suspect something?" "I think that Marcel is a very suspicious person, but Carlos is easily flirted with. I should be able to keep him off balance by romancing him. Marcel may be something we need to deal with. We will need to see as events unfold. If he presents to be a problem, he can be just another specimen we examine." "I agree. We have a plan, then?" Yes, indeed we do," Henry returned to the laboratory. Blue was unable to move as the alien examined his body, then removed his clothing. His thoughts raced. "This is punishment. God is punishing me for trying to poison my sister-in-laws," he cried inside. "Will this be the end of my life? Will I never hold Geppetto again? Geppetto! Oh, what would she do? She's depressed enough. This will devastate her." He tried to focus on breathing. Why was this alien removing my clothes? His mind raced over all the things he had heard about aliens. The abductions, the pregnancies, the strange and unexplained events that were happening at Strangerville, and even the conspiracies that the Sims government itself was involved. Were they? Did they help the aliens? And if they did, what did they get out of it? What was the end goal? Breathe, he told himself as he felt the cold air against his flesh. He couldn't turn his head to look around or wiggle his fingers or toes. All he could do was stare straight ahead. He had never felt such terror before. He felt something warm and electric flowing across his body. What was she doing? What did he do to her? Suddenly he was back in the hibernation chamber and everything went slowly dark. If there is a God, please let me survive this, he whispered into thin air where silence greeted him. He counted in his mind to distract himself and remind himself to breathe. He tried to determine what else was going on before he sank into sleep. Henry examined her handiwork. He was different than her other test subjects, and he had survived many of her tests. It was promising. Thunder examined and weighed each organ individually. Together they sat and recorded their findings. It was exciting. This might be the breakthrough they were looking for. 6 a.m. would owe them a debt of gratitude for solving the procreation dilemma. Careful not to get ahead of ourselves, she reminded herself and Thunder. Yes, there is a little more testing we need to do before we can claim a victory over this subject. The final experiment will be to put him back together. Then we would finally have a being able to reproduce and end our dependency on other alien species. This is indeed an extraordinary event. I do believe I need some rest before we began. With that, she got up, put her book away, and left the table. Marcel was terrified, but his trance wouldn't allow him to stop dancing or answering the alien's questions. Was he in trouble? He wanted to ask, but he told her all she wanted to know about the investigation. She seemed very kind, but the body she had found caused him anxiety. She drank a cup of coffee poured from their coffee maker. Was he dreaming? What? Her name was Shira? Why did she tell him that? She wanted help? The deaths were not her people's desire? A rogue alien? What? Sal felt uneasy, but he felt compelled to speak with this woman. Something screamed in his mind to run, but he stopped and answered her questions. Subconsciously, he knew this was the woman who had abducted him. Why was she here? What did she want? Would he ever be safe from these beings? She asked about the support group and the people in them. Shira met with the members from the support group. They had no clue who or what she was. She told them she was doing an investigative report on alien abductions and wanted their stories to add to hers. Eager and willing, they told her about their own experiences, from the terror of not knowing to the problem with memories that abductees suffered from. Some even complained of feeling nausea or having headaches for a prolonged period of time after the abduction. The family members of abductees were also deeply affected by what happened to their loved ones. Oftentimes it led to the abductees unable to hold a job afterwards, which could devastate a family's economic well-being. These aliens are sinister, Bibi said. There has to be a way to stop these alien beams from penetrating our atmosphere, or at least some type of satellite defense response to their ships being in our space. Perhaps there is some element that a sim could take that would offset the beam's ability to kidnap sims, or maybe a shielding around our homes and businesses. This invasive attack on our people needs to stop. I don't know if our government has tried to contact them and use diplomatic means to negotiate peace between our species, but as far as I'm concerned, they have committed an act of war. Idjit stated, I was not only terrified for my own safety when the beam nabbed me, but I was concerned for my family. What I remember is the beam of light, feeling cold, disoriented, and having trouble emotionally and mentally afterwards. Shira then met with Geppetto to discover her story. She learned about Blue and how frightened Geppetto is. Shira listened to every detail, the light, the noise, what Geppetto feared might be happening to our Blue. Do you think Blue will be okay? Geppetto asked. Shira returned to the domicile she was staying at while she conducted her investigation. She was tired, so she brewed herself some coffee. She reflected on what the subject said. Her heart felt for them, which was the first mistake of anyone conducting experiments or research on their specimens. She decided to go upstairs and have a look at the map. Perhaps there was something there that would help her discern what was going on. The map would show the locations where multiple alien abductions took place. She recognized the abduction sites that were used for procreation purposes, but there were some that didn't correspond with 6 a.m. government's tracking. Each sim was carefully selected to prevent rejection, though it wasn't foolproof. It did eliminate known factors. She sipped her coffee, her mind still sifting on how poor their memory wipe was. It needed tuning for better precision. She had better make her report and send it in. She sat down at the quaint device they called a computer and began to type. Carefully, she recorded her conversations with abductees, the agents, and her own research. The beam being used was no different than the one 6 a.m. had approved for use with this life form. She voiced her concern about the memory wipe and also about the illnesses the Sims complained of. If we desire to keep a low profile, then we have vastly undermined our ability with these invasive procedures. Other procedures should be researched and studied if we continue with this life form. She reflected again on the fear these creatures were experiencing. These 6 a.m.ers who were conducting deadly experiments on Sims had broken no 6 a.m. laws, so weren't wanted legally on her world. What they had done is brought a great deal of unwanted attention to 6 a.m. If the Sims did develop technology that prevented 6 a.m.ers from being able to take Sims at will, this would be a problem. It had taken them a long time to find a viable species that was compatible. Her orders were clear. Find the violators and put them down. There would be no formal charges against them if they were captured. She risked her own life and her safety if she was discovered killing them. It was for the safety of 6 a.m. and for the future of her species. This was her focus and her goal. She received word back that they would be meeting at her established base later that evening to discuss events. She hoped they would have some information to share as well, since there were 3 others stationed across SimWorld looking into the matter. They would compare findings and discuss a plan to detain and dispose of these perpetrators. Did everyone secure cover jobs? Shira asked. Yes, I'm a dishwasher at a local restaurant, Kalman Space Needle nodded. I've taken on a private eye practice. I thought it would give me the freedom to investigate, Peeler Rasmus said. Good thinking, Shira commented. I've secured a job as a lab technician. I don't like the idea of killing our own, Queensnitsa Quidmeyer stated. She was the youngest on their team. Neither do I, Peeler said, but I don't know what we could do instead. We can't allow someone to continue killing our source of procreation material. You know as well as everyone at this table what the stakes are. But isn't there something else we could do? Banish them? To where? Or would you prefer to put them in suspended animation forever? That is unacceptable. It is considered cruel and inhumane to leave someone in cryostasis. The first test with cryostasis demonstrated that the mind doesn't quit working even if the body is suspended. The first subjects went crazy and had to be put down out of mercy. I know. I've read our history and watched the video logs. There are other worlds. Perhaps we could send them somewhere there isn't space travel and the world is sparsely or devoid of other life forms, Nitsa queried. This isn't a debate about our orders, Shira reminded them. She then relayed what she knew about the abduction, the Sims' experiences, and her findings. I noticed that, Kelma spoke. The deadly abductions occur outside of normal sites, unsanctioned but also less traceable or noticeable to our people. They are concentrated in this region of the Sim world, so we needn't send anyone anywhere else. I thought I would speak with this coroner that Agent Marcel spoke about. Perhaps there would be information on the bodies that aren't registered by their archaic instruments. Kelma nodded. It is a good thought. I want to follow up on a lead. There is a young man who managed to escape. It is said he was never taken to a ship, and the sedative didn't affect him like the others, so he basically walked out. Oh, that is interesting on many levels, but he does sound like a good lead. Good luck, everyone.